Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Pittsburgh Hockey Now is proud to present. Hey, it's another live chat here on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. How are you? I am Dan Kingerski. Thank you so much for checking us out here as we kind of get... Christmas time drives me nuts. You'll see no Christmas decorations on the set here of the Penguins live chat, mainly because I don't have time. Two, I don't really have many. And three, that's just a lot of effort. You know what I mean? So, also, programming note, the scarf is not an effort to look academic. Rather, it is an effort to keep warm because I am that miserly and I keep my heat low. But it's a little chilly in here, just a wee little bit. On the program tonight, we're going to talk about Tristan Jarry and his push to take away the Pittsburgh Penguins net. There's a lot to get into, and I know you want to talk about that. There's the Ilya Kovalchuk battle going on. There's a handful of markets, teams, fan bases that think they're in on Kovalchuk. There's been some media reports. Our buddy up at Boston Hockey Now reported the Bruins were in on Kovalchuk. Actually, Jimmy Murphy shared his two sources with me. That was legit. Today, the Bob father, Bob McKenzie of TSN, basically smacked down Boston and Calgary as being in on Ilya Kovalchuk. Unfortunately, an internet site reported a handful of teams that were in on Kovalchuk. We'll dive into that. And that's going to be a little bit tricky for me because having been around for 20 years and having helped build some careers and other organizations, I generally know who has their stuff together and who doesn't. So when I see some reports that get taken very seriously and I know they don't have their stuff together, it's like, do I call them out? Do I be that guy that looks petty and jealous or whatever it might be? So I'll walk that tightrope in a little while as we talk about Ilya Kovalchuk. By the way, what a cool picture we were able to find of Ilya. And I made no secret of where I fall on this here little Kovalchuk issue. Not advocating him to be a 30-goal scorer and play on the top line with Sid, but I think the Penguins do have a need. We'll dive squarely into that. And we'll break down a bit about the Penguins winning. When you were sleeping after the game last night, because it ended, actually it was a pretty quick game. 11:30, quarter to 12, it ended. That's when I went to work. You know what I mean? So when I went to bed somewheres around 3:30, 4 o'clock, I didn't really go to bed so much as I just stopped typing for a couple hours, and then resumed in the wee hours of the morning again. I rewatched the Calgary game. I rewatched the Penguins win because when I watched it the first time, I really didn't feel like I had a grasp on what the Penguins were trying to do, the tactical adjustments, what Calgary had done to the Penguins to really suffocate them. The reality is, and this is why you can always maybe discount advanced stats just a bit, or if you really want a lot. The advanced stats last night say the Penguins had their hat handed to them by the Calgary Flames. The reality is the first period the Penguins did, but in the second period it was all Penguins. And the stats bore out a small advantage. In the third period, again, I thought the Penguins neutralized Calgary, but Calgary showed the advantage when you went deeper into the stats. So that's kind of one of the goofy things about those. A couple shots here and there, maybe a contested shot that really isn't dangerous, but is from a dangerous area of the ice, gets magnified in those. But I will break down the Calgary win. There was a significance to it that when I watched it the first time, I thought it was just an escape victory, But as I rewatched it, a couple things became clear to me, and I will share those. Do me a favor, hop on that their chat board as you watch this on YouTube. If you watch it later, go ahead and comment. I sadly do read those, and I apologize for the deluge of other videos and live videos and other chats that you may have been notified for. I know you Penguins folks are here for the Penguins talk, and we'll keep it to that professional level here tonight. Tons of pictures, tons of fun stuff to get through. Where is it? Where do I... It was kind of Evgeni Malkin's night on Tuesday night, was it not? Malkin gets number 400. It was an empty netter. They count just the same. I loved his locker room comments. If Malkin spoke a little bit of a cleaner version of English, I know some people love to bag on Malkin for the like ums, but I can't tell you I'd be much better in Russian even after a decade. You know, if I lived here, let's say 3-4 months a year, and got to speak my native tongue and then went to Russia for 6 months, 8 months a year, I can't tell you I would speak wonderful, fluent Russian. What Malkin said last night, and let's start with Gino, shall we? I want 100 more. I wasn't my best tonight for sure, but we won 2 points. I love the deflection about it. He could have reveled, he could have basked a little bit, but you are seeing really a rededicated Evgeni Malkin. And that's why I thought it was important to do the top 5 goals of Evgeni Malkin as well. And that is also on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. In fact, there's the live chat Twitter, which I shouldn't even put up there because I never check that. Someone else has access to it. I couldn't care less about it. I might be getting a little bit nearsighted too. How do you like that? So there, you can tweet me at the Dan Kingerski. We are PittsburghHockeyNow.com. For those of you who are newbies to this and catching us, because we get more and more new people for every live chat that we do. We have, I shouldn't say we. I have been doing this hockey thing for like 20 years now. This might be my 20th season, 19th, give or take, maybe 18th. I don't know. They all run together a little bit. But I am a news reporter, columnist, and I own my own site now, PittsburghHockeyNow.com. So the important thing is that not only do I just kind of cover hockey like a normal scribe, but I've also worked in hockey, and we'll break down and diagram plays, and we can really get into some of the fun stuff. I don't know what time I finished the Evgeni Malkin story this morning, but going back through just picking 5 of his goals, and you saw a couple against Tampa Bay, a couple against New Jersey, when he just blew through everybody. And then that spinorama move was number 1. I just couldn't help it because he chased down Darnell Nurse. This was 2 years ago at PPG when he did that. I can't show you the video, or YouTube wouldn't pay me for this little video. They would call it a copyright infringement. But I know, craziness. When he chased down Darnell Nurse, picked the stick, stole the puck, went the other way, and then did a spinorama move and beat Anders Nilsson top shelf on the backhand. Just a ridiculous sort of goal. And I had to make that number 1. Even over his rookie year, 2006, when he danced through 3 Devils and pounded on the glass. I always thought that was a great moment. He knew he scored a career highlight kind of goal back then, and the youthful enthusiasm to come pouring out was really a sign of the new Penguins to come. I'm enjoying this iteration of Evgeni Malkin. There's a maturity. There's a little bit of an anger from last season that's carried over in a positive sort of way. There's a fire, maybe is a better way to put it. And you're seeing that on the ice. What does he have? 29 points in 21 games. If Malkin had played 35 games and had 45 points, we'd be talking Hart Trophy. We'd be talking Art Ross conversation, although Connor McDavid probably has the Art Ross locked up. And maybe this year he's finally worthy of the Hart Trophy they keep giving him because they've anointed him. They being that small clique of hockey journalists who seem to make opinion that others seem to follow. This is probably maybe the first or second year that Connor McDavid is truly MVP timber. Second year. I'm one of those people, if your team stinks and you put up 120 points, well, yeah, your team stunk. You weren't that valuable. They could have finished last without you. That's where I've always fallen in that. Your team has to have had some success along the way. You have to have elevated your team, and last place is not elevated. This year, Edmonton has over 40 points, I believe. I think they were at 40. Did they win on Tuesday night? I didn't check, but you get where I'm going with this. Let's hit the chat board here. Hey, Kaik, how are you? Bobby says 2 deadline D rental ideas, Andy Green or Ron Hainsey. Those are certainly guys who have some miles on the tires, aren't they? I don't know that I would, I think they can do better, but if they're on a budget and they want a 6-7, I suppose Hainsey would not be a bad call, right? Okay, no, Daniel, you were live. Let's see here. Dode. Do you think the Pens look to move Schultz before the deadline? Trade for an upgrade at right D who is more durable, as one of Schultz or Letang always seem to be injured. I think I wrote before the season, Dode, that Justin Schultz was the great X-factor wild card in the Penguins trade discussions. John Marino has not done anything to dampen that X-factor of Justin Schultz. Could Marino take the second pairing? I'm beginning to believe that is the case. A little pat on the back for PHN. I think we were trumpeting John Marino, and I stick tap to his family for sending us some love, back in September and October when I really began to see, wow, this kid has it. I'm glad that everyone else has kind of, is taking up that mantle and running a little further than I might with it. He's not been perfect, but he's been very good. Could he handle the second pairing? Right side D? Yeah, I think so. Not with Marcus Pettersson. I'd want to see him with Jack Johnson again. I think that would be an adequate second pairing. Could the Penguins deal Justin Schultz? Well, if a team said, hey, Penguins, here's a piece you need, let's say a scoring winger, we want Justin Schultz, and the deal financially made sense and made sense on the ice, I think it could happen. I still think the Penguins are better with Letang, Schultz, and Marino down the right side. I think if the Penguins add a defenseman, or if the Penguins make a trade, I'm still of the opinion, and I disagree with Jim Rutherford on this. He's searching for a winger. I'm looking at left-handed D rentals, or guys who could make the Penguins better for a couple or a few years. I am not enamored with the left side D in combination with the right side D. Much like last year when the puzzle was a little bit off, I think this year, Pettersson was very good with Marcus Goodbranson. Unfortunately, one of my predictions is coming very true, that Pettersson is a bit soft. being paired with Justin Schultz, that pairing got pinned. And now that Pettersson is playing with Chad Ruhwedel, they're getting beat up a bit more, even. Pettersson had a rough night against Calgary. When I rewatched the game, I really could have put the boots to him for just a handful of plays and things that, positions he should have been, battles he should have engaged a little harder. I think pucks he could have or should have won, he didn't get through the course of the game. And I think that's a bit of an issue with Marcus Pettersson. When he played with Eric Goodbranson or Jack Johnson, those things were mitigated by Johnson and Goodbranson's above-average ability and strength. Now that he's with, say, an offensive defenseman, I see Pettersson's value coming down rather than up. So, given the Penguins' right side D, if we go full boat, Letang, Schultz, and Marino, I think I just think there's a potential there. The Penguins might want to get a little tougher for the playoffs, assuming they do make the playoffs, and things look pretty good if they can handle or tread water with this roster, huh? Jennifer. Any word on Schultz? Haven't seen anything since he left the game last night. No, listen. I think I politely had some fun with some people on Twitter last night. It's not that hockey writers hide information. No, the Penguins had no media availability on Wednesday. They had their little outdoor scrimmage at the outdoor rink outside Calgary. They had some fun. More power to them, but they didn't announce anything. In fact, the Penguins didn't even announce that Nason was put on waivers. That was done via Chris Johnston on Twitter, which kind of set off the Ilya Kovalchuk talk. So let's get into, where's my photo? There we go. Let's get into the Ilya Kovalchuk stuff, shall we? Here's the thing about Ilya Kovalchuk. I think the misnomer that I have seen it started on social media as a small little bit of smoke in the garbage can. And that started, let's say, on Tuesday morning when the Kovalchuk stuff started. By this afternoon, Kovalchuk was a toxic guy who left the Kings and is a terrible teammate. This is where things on the internet start to get way exaggerated and out of proportion. I want you to look real close at that photo that we've got up on the screen. What do you see besides the New Jersey Devils logo on Ilya Kovalchuk's sweater? What do you see? You see the A. Now, I believe his coach in New Jersey at that time, his last year, I believe it was Pete DeBoer. Was it not? And so, look at Pete as a coach. This guy isn't screwing around. He's not one of these hack coaches who comes in for, a year and a half and gets blown away and never to be heard from again. And he gave Kovalchuk the A. Does that say to you that he's a bad teammate, a selfish player, and a toxin in the locker room? No! That became a misnomer that went way out of control on Wednesday. So let's set that aside, okay? The issues with Ilya Kovalchuk, he's not so great in the defensive zone. How many 40-goal scorers are? What Kovalchuk could have brought, and I don't think the Penguins are in on him. I've tried. I did some digging. There was an internet site that said the Penguins were one of 3 teams in on him. It could be true. Maybe they've got a source somewhere that I don't. I've tried. I did some digging and I got Zippo back on Kovalchuk. I did digging on all sides. this side, that side, and independent sides, and no one's heard the Penguins in on Kovalchuk. I still think it's a good idea. For minimum wage, the Penguins would get a right-handed shot who might be able to add some pop, some scoring finish on their third line, add a bit of power play juice, maybe to their second unit. Look, at this point, I think we can all conclude this is one of those years the Pittsburgh Penguins are never going to be fully healthy. They're just not. The injury bug has infested them like bugs in New York City. It's kind of over. When these seasons start like this, it never lets up. So to have a guy like that, you can put in the press box if you do get healthy for more than a period and a half. And if he doesn't work, what have you wasted? $600,000? Could you not find another taker for him, perhaps? You're not necessarily stuck with that contract either, because you might be able to deal him for $1 to somewhere else. And quite frankly, the possibility exists, although I think the Penguins would get charged. If he left for the KHL, they could suspend him, and I don't think the money would count. Although, because he's older than 35, I'm not sure how that works. The risk is minimal. The upside is tangible. He doesn't play that fast up-tempo speed game of the Penguins, but neither does Alex Galchenyuk. And I think as we see, as this goes on, Galchenyuk is getting worse with the Penguins, not better. He's just beating himself to a pulp at this point. He's beating himself down. And I don't think the Penguins are going to capitalize or be able to capitalize on what Galchenyuk has to offer. So if you were to deal Galchenyuk to move that salary, then you've got a hole on the roster. What do you want me to say? For all of those reasons, Galchenyuk makes sense. You can have a guy or two who doesn't play like Brian Rust and Brandon Tanev or Jared McCann. You can have a couple complimentary just finishers. Guys who know to get to the circle and get your stick down. And that's what Kovalchuk would be with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mutation, good to see you as well. Jack Johnson says Daniel is playing decent hockey. I need to find another player to blame. Oh, Daniel, you crack me up. Yeah, have not most rational people at this point come on board with Jack Johnson? Like, even the media skeptics are like, well, yeah, he's playing good this year, But there are just some holdouts who will not let it go. There's always Alex Galchenyuk, Daniel. There's always Dominic Simone. Dom Simone, you can just, you can make him a hockey piñata if you like. I did tell someone this, just chatting on my website, in the comments section. Jack Johnson has done more for Pittsburgh hockey now, unintentionally, and a little bit intentionally, actually. He gave us the scoop in October, refuting the trade report. He's been a good dude, but. And I have no knowledge that he knows that we've been the one kind of bringing the counterbalance to the Jack Johnson corkscrew. Jack Johnson and that silliness allowed Pittsburgh hockey now to break through the noise, to get around the crowd. Our traffic, it's not a coincidence that our traffic ballooned during that. And we were taking the unpopular opinion. And why did we, it allowed us to differentiate and separate ourselves from a lot of noise, a lot of folks who weren't addressing it or, I think I got to shine for a minute in really bringing a balance and diagramming plays and showing an even-handed approach. And I appreciate everyone who came and saw and stuck. Our traffic and our public awareness has gone through the roof in the last 12 months. And really, Jack Johnson was the fire, the first domino in a lot of chain of events. The retirement from the NHL was pretty weird for Kovalchuk. Yeah, you just never know with what's going on with Russia, and I'll leave it at that. Pens are not per TSN. Yeah, the Bob father, he smacked down Greg Wyshynski a little bit today, didn't he? When Wyshynski's like, hey, Calgary and Penguins made waiver moves. And Bob just brought the hammer on that. Let's see here. They traded a star in Kessel for a fourth line guy, Dylan. No, they didn't. They traded Phil Kessel for a myriad of reasons, and they got Alex Galchenyuk and P.O. Joseph back. That's not why they traded Phil Kessel. They didn't trade Phil Kessel to get Alex Galchenyuk and P.O. Joseph. Okay? You get where I'm going with that? And looking at the Penguins' identity and buy-in this season through adversity that I can only describe as hockey hell, do you see the difference? The misery, the attitude last year, which really reached a crescendo and held them back, those constraints are gone now. They're missing an offensive guy right now, and Kovalchuk could bring some of that. I don't know that this is Dylan. I get where you're going, and I think we're in the right church here. I can't help but nitpick a little bit at that. That I don't know that the Penguins need an offensive guy. They can just outwork everybody like they did back in 2016 before Jake Gensel was a 40-goal guy, before Brian Rust was scoring at a 98-point pace. He's scoring at what, a 40-goal, 98-point pace is Brian Rust. Before all of those guys, they just went and got puck after puck after puck. You can win with the way the Penguins are constructed when healthy. I think Kovalchuk could add a little spice. Yeah. But I don't like, I guess, Dylan, what my point is, I don't like equating the loss of Kessel with the need for Kovalchuk. That's kind of the line where, you get where I'm going with that. I think Kovalchuk could be a nice little add, playing third line and occasionally drop him on the second line, maybe some power play stuff. Just add some goals and get out of the way. I knew Daniel was just messing around. Believe me. Yep. I am a funny man. Isn't the contract still an issue for Jack Johnson? $3.25 million for what they're getting for a top four sledgehammer stay-at-home defenseman who doesn't get beat, who's now, I don't know if you've noticed, adding a little bit of an offensive flair. He's 31 years old, has 3 more years after this one. You think $3.25 million is expensive? Jack Johnson, when they signed Jack Johnson, and here, George, I'm going to add some context that I don't think anybody else has. When I told my colleagues, some in the media, this little nugget, they all looked at me like, are you serious? If you take all the veteran defensemen in the NHL last season, not counting the bubble guys who go back and forth or who were hanging on with entry, paltry contracts, not take out the minimum wage guys and look at actual veteran defensemen on multi-year contracts. Jack Johnson was paid in the bottom third of those guys. Not just in the bottom third, in the bottom quarter, in the bottom 25% of those players is where Jack Johnson's salary resided. Now, in the next couple years, that's going to get worse and worse for Jack Johnson. But look, he wanted, $16 million. He didn't care if he got it in 1-year contract or a 6-year contract. The Penguins and he came to the 5-year deal, and $3.25 is nothing. Would you pay $3.25 million for a guy who's playing like he is right now? You should, yeah. Kessel has been the worst player in the NHL this season at 5-on-5. Has he really? Kessel is just a different cat. I don't know what to tell you that I haven't already told a lot of you. It was kind of funny. I was against all of you when the Penguins acquired Kessel because I told you it was going to be a good thing for the Penguins and that you would love him. And then a few years later, I'm like, he's got to go. And you're like, no, we love him. I think you and I will always be at odds on a few things. Can I talk a little bit about Brian Rust? You mean this guy? Let me get my name off of there. There's me taking some photos at practice. There's Brian Rust doing some extra work. Mutation, let me tell you a bit about what Brian Rust is doing differently. Let me grab the quote that I used in the PHN Plus report card. And by the way, since you're all here, if you'd like to subscribe to PHN Plus, I'd love to have you. DM me. I will send you that coupon code, okay? So you can get a discounted PHN Plus subscription. If you watch these goofy videos, I want you on board. Let me find the quote from last night that Brian Rust dropped. And in this quote, I think says everything that I could say, but I want to use his words. Where is it? Where's the report card? They did enough. There it is. I'm pretty sure I put it in the report card. It was wee hours of the morning. Hang on. Okay, here it is. And here's my evaluation of Brian Rust last night. He did what he needed to do. He's developing a scorer's instinct. Here's the quote on the goal. Brian Rust said, "I had a little time. I kind of walked out from behind the net. Goalies either like to hug that post or push off hard. I was hoping he was going to push off hard, and he did. I was able to go short side." Now, what does that tell you about Brian Rust's goal? Do you kind of get what I'm thinking about here, or what I took from that? What I hear in that quote, Rust had a moment with the puck. He's anticipating the goalie's moves. He's anticipating his moves and his options to score a goal. And then he made a good shot. Dude is thinking the game at a level he's never thought it before. That's what is making Brian Rust so dangerous and exciting to watch. He's always been a bottle rocket sort of player who can streak past everybody down the wing. Now he's adding this dangerous level of offensive ability, not necessarily in his hands, but it's all in his head. And that's what makes him dangerous, and that's why I think a large portion of this success, he's not going to score 40 goals, I don't think. You know, I don't see Brian Rust ending up with 75 points this season, but at this point, I can't bet against it either. It's how he's thinking the game now, and his ability to understand how scoring is done, how to be in the right positions. He's really added a next level to his game, which at 27 years old, not a lot of guys do. Rust is no dummy. In fact, when if you want, I've got the locker room interview from him before they left on the West Coast trip. I can play that for you towards the end of the little broadcast here. I don't even know what sport this is, but I'm still hooked. All right, George, glad to have you. Jacko has gotten better and is a nice guy, but it's risky having him on the ice. Let it go. I think a top 6 of McCann, Gino, Rust, Jake, Sid, Cahoon would be pretty solid. Yeah, that's the thing. The Penguins are going to do their pairs. But I actually, McCann on the left wing with Gino and Rust. Okay, yeah. I seem to recall that line had some spark before Malkin got hurt, like early in the season, didn't it? That was before McCann was pressed into second line center duty. John Marino is my dad. Given that Marino's 22, well, file the papers and let's see what happens. What do you think has been Galchenyuk's issue in Pittsburgh? Bad fit for Sully's system, unhappy here, or not the same player he once was? Well, he's 25. He should not have lost a step. Let's dispel that. Even though it seems like he's been around forever, he's only 25 years old, is Alex Galchenyuk. He is not unhappy here in Pittsburgh. Having chatted with him, there's an unhappiness, but it's not with Pittsburgh. It's with himself. And that, I think, Sean, is the problem with Alex Galchenyuk. It's, do I have anything else for the screen here? Nope, I don't want that on there. Let's put that there. I think Galchenyuk is impeding himself mentally. I think he wanted to have that big burst, and I think he wanted to go earn that big contract, and I think he wanted to be the star player that everybody has wanted him to be. He's got Evgeni Malkin. He's come to Pittsburgh, which is still in a lot of players' minds the ancestral home of hockey, offensive hockey. And he comes to Pittsburgh. He has a good training camp. He gets hurt. Malkin gets hurt. Things go sideways, and they've never gotten on track for Galchenyuk. I don't think there's any question he's pressing. I don't think there's any question he's pressing in a different manner than other players, too. Other guys grip their stick too tight. I see him shrinking within the game and within the game structure a lot of times. Unsure of himself, unsure of his place, getting lost, getting angry, getting frustrated, and things just spiraling out of control. That's why I don't believe, barring one of those cataclysmic moments in which he dances around a guy in pots of beauty, and then all of a sudden all that negativity washes away and he feels good about himself again. Short of one of those sorts of moments, I don't think Galchenyuk is going to fit in Pittsburgh. I just think the stink is on him here. I think the frustration is too great. He needs to take a breath. I like him with a team like LA, with a team like Anaheim. I don't like him for a team like Buffalo, but they're the ones who have kicked the tires on him. I like him in one of those conservative Western Conference teams where the coach can say, okay, Gally, here's our structure. You have a certain ability to freelance because guys will cover your butt. Go for it. And I think that could put a little bit of an onus on his shoulders in a good way. Whereas with the Penguins, everything is so fast, 100 miles per hour. You don't necessarily have the freelancing ability with the Penguins because so much of it is already a freelance at 100 miles per hour. You have to hit your marks here and there, but everything in between that for the Penguins is very, act and react. Whereas if you watch the Kings game, the Penguins-Kings game, and to a large extent, Calgary's game last night too, was very structured, very controlled. There isn't that act and react as part of their system. There's simply get back, be there. And more Western Conference teams have that conservative single pass approach. When Eric Branson got here last year, that was the biggest thing he noticed. Is, the layers. And I don't want to go too far in the weeds, with too many of you. The Penguins have a layered approach to their breakouts and their rushes that a lot of those Western Conference teams don't have because they're more structured. The Penguins are structured, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they lack structure. I'm saying it's a bit more creative. And it's, if this guy comes underneath with speed, then two other guys read that and do different things, whereas other teams, that's predetermined if that guy's going to come underneath with speed or not. And so it's a bit of dominoes with the Penguins. Good players love it. Good Branson loved it. He's like, oh, well, if this guy's covered, I don't have to just dump the puck off the glass. I've got two more options. And you saw his game really blossom with that. And he had better hands and better eyes than people had realized in Vancouver, even maybe Florida. So did I explain that kind of well? I hope so. Okay, somebody, Dale needs some women advice. Dale, you came to the wrong place. Trust me on that. I'm the last guy to give you any female advice. I don't care if she's from Ukraine, you have to pay her internet bill. I really, really don't care. We still entertaining the Kovalchuk idea. I've advocated for it. I don't think the Penguins are, so... let me just go ahead and hide this guy. Let's see here. Let's hide this goofball. What do I think the future of Casey DeSmith is? Good question, Mutation. And that really is a long-term answer, not a short-term answer. I think the Penguins are loving this right now. If you're Jim Rutherford, how can you not be loving watching that guy, Tristan Jarry, just absolutely make a strong push for the Penguins' net? Now the Penguins have 3 legitimate goaltenders who can stop pucks at the NHL level. What they have to determine who is the best. But DeSmith is signed for a couple more years. If they're okay paying him at the AHL level, they do take a little bit of a salary cap hit to do that. Not much. I think they get to claim a deduction of about $1,050,000, and DeSmith's salary is $1.2 million. So they get a little bit of a cap penalty of $150,000, but nothing too great. You keep DeSmith until you settle this Jarry-Murray thing. And even then, you keep DeSmith. Because next year, the average salary is going to go up again, and that $150,000 penalty for putting DeSmith in the AHL might become $100,000 next year. It might even go down to, say, $75,000 if the average salary goes up to $1.1 million. So the Penguins have no need to do anything with DeSmith. He is great insurance. He's a good goaltender. They gain nothing by trading him for a bucket of bolts. Star Wars reference. And that's, I think, the future of DeSmith is to be determined based on the future of Murray and Jarry. If those two, look, the Penguins, both of those guys are RFAs in July. The Penguins might hardball both of them. Wouldn't that be something? Get both for $6 million. Or, I just don't know how that's going to work out. And it will be determined on the ice, which is always a good thing. Is it appropriate to subscribe to 3 different news sources for a team that is over 7,000 kilometers away? Daniel, no, it's not. I think you should subscribe to Pittsburgh Hockey Now and let the other guys just fight for scraps. Would you trade a first for Athanasiou? He fits the Penn system and scored 30 goals last season. No, I don't think I'd give up a first-round pick this year. The Penguins held firm in keeping their first-round pick in the 2019 draft. They could have traded a first-round pick for a guy like Athanasiou or some other wingers on the market, or even defensemen on the market. But the Penguins are looking 3 years down the road here. And they don't want to go through that swoon. The Penguins know what's going to happen if they go through that swoon. The fans are going to leave. I mean, hell, the fans leave with 10 minutes to go in a tied game now. Why would they show up if the team doesn't, if the team isn't giving a lot of those fans that gratification? We won tonight. When that selfish gratification goes, I don't know if there's a billion hockey fans in Pittsburgh. And so the Penguins don't necessarily want to suck and go through that first overall pick lottery situation where they might be picking second and third, crossing their fingers that a great talent is available. Now, that's how they built themselves. The first, now, look at organizations like Buffalo and Columbus that have been through that and missed. Not just missed, but there wasn't a great talent in that draft. Columbus missed on a couple and didn't really have great choices in others. And Buffalo didn't have great choices when they were at the top of the draft until they got Eichel second overall. So it's a lot to ask to count on ping pong balls. And so I do not think you'll see them trade a first-round pick. I think you'll see them deal a Justin Schultz before they deal a first-rounder. Jason says Jarry has been the MVP thus far. His puck skills are a welcome addition. I think that, I think the defensemen are getting used to that again. His glove is way better than Murray's. Yeah, Jarry is the future. Maybe. Let's see Jarry after 40 games this season. And I can't stress that enough. The league is going to get enough film and enough tape on Jarry. And they're going to start to pick at him. Let's not cast this in stone. This is the same debate we had 4 years ago with Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray, and people were like, yeah, get rid of Fleury. Woo, Murray. Now, a few years later, you're like, yeah, Jarry. Murray panned out, but now you're down on Murray. So this is the evolution, and this is the process of a goalie. Oh, you missed my hands up in the air. I was like, throwing them all back. What I see in Jarry's game that I think teams are going to try to exploit, and that he is going to have to combat and adjust. It really reminds me of a young Fleury, in the sense that he can overcommit, he can get scrambly. I think after goals, I sense a shakiness in him. He doesn't have that Matt Murray switch, in which if Murray even allows a bad goal, Murray skates to the corner, where he puts his head down, comes back to the crease, and it never happened. And he's ice-cold Matt Murray again. I don't necessarily see that with Tristan Jarry yet. Some goalies, get angry and let it fester for a couple of minutes. I think Marc-Andre Fleury still does. And I think a lot of guys, in their 30s who are well-established still can let some goals get to them. So, also, I do notice this sometimes. Jarry likes to flash the glove side, let you think it's available, and then take it away. Like some goalies show you the 5-hole, Jarry likes to show you glove side and then take it away. Jarry does have a pretty good glove hand. Will that burn him, however? I mean, we don't yet know what Tristan Jarry is like in a big pressure situation. When all the chips are on the table, we don't yet know that Tristan Jarry is the guy that has the rock-solid jaw. We know that Matt Murray is at his best in those situations. So is Jarry the future? We don't yet know. That was a long answer to that one little question, wasn't it? I guess that's why you come for these live chats, which are almost an hour old now. Let's see here. Do you think we will be targeted for a goalie when the new team comes in? The Seattle whatchamacallits? That's also a possibility, right? The expansion draft is in 2 years, not 1 year. So Casey DeSmith will be a free agent. Yeah, I do think it's possible, however, that the Penguins maybe even re-up Casey DeSmith with the but this Murray-Jarry thing will get settled. There probably isn't room for both unless one accepts a backup role. Who was the defenseman you were referring to in Calgary? Jason, read the story, man. I mentioned 2. I'm not telling you. There were 2 defensemen in Calgary in that story I wrote. You got to click on it, man. Jay Poopsy, I know how you feel about the trade ideas, but how about Dano in Montreal as the third-line center? He's a defensive centerman who plays in a speed-centered system in Montreal already. I've advocated for him in the past, but why would Montreal give him up? You know, look, the Habs are in it this year. The Atlantic Division is not deep like we thought it would. I think we'll see 5 Metro teams in the playoffs again. Or we very well could. Philadelphia is having some issues. And if Carolina falls, then we'll have the 4-4. But there's a strong possibility we have 5 Metro teams in the playoffs again. So Montreal is there. Why? I don't think they're going to give him up. And Mark Bergevin likes to kick tires. Mark Bergevin is the guy who's always on the car lot kicking tires, beating salesmen. Hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? How many moves has Montreal actually made in the last 3 years? With the core getting old, they need the draft pick and prospects. Can't trade them away every year. I agree with you, Dylan. The long answers are exactly one of the reasons we come here to love to talk hockey. I appreciate that, Jason. Okay, I'll tell you, Jason. I'll tell you the 2 Calgary defensemen were, since you didn't catch the story and you didn't give me that click. You didn't pay me that day. Brody and Hamonic are 2 left side defensemen whose contracts expire at the end of this season, who I think could come in and help the Penguins. Either one of those guys, I think, could step into, certainly Brody might be more of a third pairing left side guy. Hamonic could step in on the second pairing. Certainly he could be, first or second pairing in Brian Dumoulin's absence. With Dumoulin back, let's say in March, when everybody's healthy, you could have a left side of Dumoulin, Hamonic or Johnson, and Hamonic or Johnson. I like that a lot with the right side of Letang, Schultz, and Marino. I think you got the grit and the toughness on the one side, and you've got the offensive puck-moving flair on the others. Simone, Bukestad, Hornquist was very good last year. They were. When those 3 were together, their advanced stats were through the roof. I mean, to the moon. They literally were at 60, 62% in terms of scoring chances. They dominated. Have to hope everyone gets healthy. Absolutely. The problem with having Simone and Bukestad on the same line, both of those guys are like 8% shooters. That's what Bukestad is. I think Simone might be less than 8%. I haven't looked it up lately. But that's the only problem with that line. Didn't Hamonic ask to be traded to Western Canada for family issues? Yes, he did. However, his contract is also up. And I don't necessarily know that those family issues couldn't be put on hold for a couple months as a rental player for a chance at a Stanley Cup. I guess Calgary was in it, and now they're out of it again, and there's still a lot of question exactly what Calgary is. They wouldn't deal Hamonic right away, but then again, they could deal Hamonic and then re-sign him in the summer. If he really wants to be in Western Canada, he's got 3 options. Maybe 4 if you count Winnipeg. I'm not sure where his family issues lied, if Vancouver is too far, if Winnipeg is too far, or what that was. Yeah, Daniel, you're correct. But a lot of players have sucked it up from late February to June, especially when Lord Stanley is a possibility. And can I tell you something? Between you and me, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and how they're doing this. Look at the buy-in. Look at the style of honest, aggressive, fast hockey they are playing. They are scoring goals without Sidney Crosby in the lineup. Now just imagine when Crosby comes back and Jared McCann doesn't have to be the second-line center anymore. Imagine when Nick Bjugstad is back at the third-line center role. McCann gets to patrol the wing, where he is dynamic. Begin to imagine that Penguins lineup. Whether it's Murray or Jarry in goal, look at how the Penguins' defense is shaping up. As pretty darn good. Would not have guessed this back in August when I was writing my previews. Would not have guessed John Marino would stabilize the defense with a bit of offense. And Marino added a little bit of, I think, pizzazz to Jack Johnson, who kind of fed off of that and is playing a better game. And in part because he was playing with John Marino, and Johnson got momentum. And I did ask him about that. I used that exact word. Like, you have momentum? You feel like you've got some... And he said, yeah, this year has been a lot different, but he's feeling that momentum, and you see his game growing, and that's just all good things for the Penguins. I do not see, when they are healthy, I don't think on paper they are as good as the Washington Capitals. Not as deep with the scoring. With Verana and Backstrom and Ovechkin and who am I missing? I'm missing Oshie and John Carlson. The Capitals are really good this year. But could the Penguins hang with them? Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts on Bjugstad? I think when he's healthy, he's not a shoo-in at all for a spot in the lineup. I would disagree with that. Bjugstad is very good. He just doesn't put up the big point totals. But having said that, if you look at Bjugstad's typical career production, it is right on par, actually better than Nick Bonino. So if put that in context, and Bjugstad is not flashy. Like, he doesn't make the big hits, but he's just strong and quiet, and he gets pucks, and he keeps pucks, and he moves pucks. If Hornquist weren't ice cold at the end of last year, Hornquist would have had 10 goals in the month of March playing with Bjugstad. So, and Bjugstad is very fast, by the way. He doesn't look it because he's 6'6". If you look at the ground he covers in the same amount of time as a little guy with his legs flying like a duck underwater, Bjugstad is very quick as well. Could they trade him, however? Yeah, I think that's a possibility. The Penguins like McCann at center more than I do. So, yeah, it's a definite possibility to move Bjugstad when he gets healthy. But if they don't move him, he's a better third-line center than Jared McCann. Every year we beat the Capitals. They had the better team. We have bigger hearts. Every year but 2018, right? I don't know. Could you see that I winked? For those of you just joining us, I'm not wearing the scarf to be pretentious. It's just cold in here, and I'm cheap. I won't turn the heat up past 65 in the studio here. So I'm going to have to live with it. I'm going to regret doing this. This is going to hurt. Can you see my slippers? Wait, turn them that way. Those are my slippers. They are old. They stink. But I love them so. And I hate the sequels. The sequel trilogy. I am so dreading this weekend. I'm going to have to go see it. I have seen every Star Wars since Return of the Jedi. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater. And I've seen every Star Wars since Jedi on opening night, opening weekend. That includes the prequels, all 3 of them. That includes 7 and 8. I saw them all, usually first night, but certainly first weekend. And I am dreading episode 9. Absolutely dreading that pile of cow dung that Disney is going to flip at us, which is going to, I just know it in my heart, going to destroy the canon that George Lucas set forth, which was a beautiful Greek tragedy. Luke Skywalker, I don't think, was meant to survive episode 9, and that was going to be the great emotional death scene. Instead of the half-assed, miserable miser who hid on an island and whined, "Oh, this is bad, we have to destroy the Jedi," except for all the new Jedis coming on they're going to make new movies about. "Oh, my pupil turned on me, poor me." Yes, Luke and the canon went to a dark place. I'm talking Star Wars. I don't care. You can leave now. Luke, in the real Star Wars George Lucas treatment canon, went to a dark place. He flirted with the dark side, not misery, whiny, pathetic, sad, I quit and go home. That was the worst character assassination of a beloved character. It denied Star Wars fans that emotional moment of either saying goodbye or watching him die. They used that on Han Solo. And so they just wasted Luke Skywalker. The star of the trilogy. Disney overlords can suck it. Unpopular take, episode 3 was very good. Yeah, it was good, Daniel. I mean, once you got past the acting of Mannequin Skywalker, and the clunky dialogue, poor Natalie Portman, we know she's a great actress. Those two were just like, it was 6th grade Christmas play dialogue. I get it, but damn, it was good because of the visual effects and the scenery, and you knew Darth Vader was coming and how awesome that transformation was. Yes. Back to hockey, Shane asks, would you keep 59, 71, 17 together even after Sid comes back? Keep 2 of the 3 together. And the other one goes with Sid. That's what I would do. I think you might drop Cahoon in on that line, be it on the right side with Gensel and Malkin, or you put Gensel back with Crosby and put Cahoon on the left side with Malkin and Rust. I tend to like Gensel with Malkin better. I really do. I think Gensel can read Malkin's play, his east-west play, better than most other wingers can. And it doesn't hurt that Malkin is in beast mode, and it doesn't hurt that Malkin is limiting that east-west stuff either. I think Crosby could help someone else become a 30-goal scorer. Yeah, so is Galchenyuk for Scandella a possibility? If I answer that question, yes, that would imply that I have some knowledge of trade talks, and I do not. So is it a possibility? Sure. But make no mistake, I'm not reporting that to be a trade deal. Okay? Let's see here. Bonino did so much more in my eyes than Bukestad. Interesting. I will tell you, Jack, that Bukestad actually has a much bigger game than Bonino does in terms of keeping the puck alive, in terms of puck pressure, in terms of all of those things. Bukestad is the superior center to Bonino. Now, Bonino had that amazing run with Kessel and Hagelin. You take that 3-month period away from Bonino, and he's a 30-point center who was very good defensively, but he didn't have that presence that Bukestad brings to the ice. Just here's what I would suggest, Jack, is change your thinking for one game. When Bukestad comes back and gets in the rhythm, he was kind of bad this season, and now we know why. He had a sports hernia. And that's kind of always the thing that I have to do this all the time. Take your opinion, set it aside, rewatch. Not trying to prove that opinion, even sometimes watch trying to disprove your opinion. And that's the funny thing about hockey, because it's such a game of mistakes. And the folks who hate Letang or Matt Murray or Evgeni, like, people still will not give Evgeni Malkin his due. I still get comments on the website and in person. Oh, Malkin makes so many mistakes. Really? Does he really? Or did he have a bad year and a half doing that? He had a bad year and a half. He's not making those mistakes this year. Every player makes a couple of those mistakes. And they get magnified when Malkin makes one because it feeds into that perception. So that's kind of the overarching thing. And look, NHL coaches are not immune to that disease where they get a perception and little plays feed into it and other plays kind of don't do enough to counteract their perception. I guess we're all human, right? But that's kind of what I tell people to do. You know, Letang or whatever player you hate. Watch a game with the intent of disproving it. Look for those good plays. You're like, oh my God, he played well that game when you're looking for it. All right, so that's just about it for me. That's 1 hour, 7 minutes. Last call for questions. Okay, you got 30 seconds here. I know you won't see this. Actually, I'm saying this a minute before you're going to see this, so I have to wait a few. Last call for alcohol. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Tweet me at the Dan Kingerski if you want that discount code to subscribe to PHN Plus. I am happy and willing to give it, but you got to DM me. I'm not going to put it on the screen for everyone to see. I want our core, those of you who have helped us rise. I now pay my bills and pay my rent with Pittsburgh hockey now. This is my primary job now. Do you believe that? I would not have bet on that a year ago. I would not have. And I owe you that. You know, so many of you on this chat. Thank you. Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, nothing at all. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Bah Humbug, whatever makes you happy. But thank you for spreading the word, and thank you for participating, and thank you for being on the website and giving me the clicks and giving me a kick every now and then when you think I need it. I will notice that I did notice this morning when I reread back the Jarry piece that I did, I found no less than half a dozen typos. And when you're writing like this at 5:30 in the morning, because you can't open your eyes, that stuff happens. And mutation, Redbeards is leaving us at the end of this month. We got them for an extra 3 months. We gave them a ridiculous amount of publicity and website clicks, but they're not going to do like this kind of web advertising anymore. So we lost Redbeards. I think a bigger place is going to come on board, but we didn't find out until early December that Redbeards was leaving us. By the way, love Redbeards. Not just because they paid every month religiously on time. You didn't have to chase them down for the payment, but because they're a good place. They're good people. The owner of Redbeards used to coach junior hockey. Not rec hockey, but he used to coach in juniors. So he knew his stuff, and he kind of looked at my stuff and said, "Oh, you know your stuff." I'm like, cool, thank you. We kept them on as long as it made sense for both sides. And I do enjoy going to Redbeards. And I'll still stop in there until someone else pays me, and I'm going to go there then. I will pump the hell out of whoever comes on next. Do you hear that, Carson City? All right, hey, thank you, Dode. Thank you for Dode. You were in here for a good hour and a half. Thanks, man. Thanks for sticking for the whole chat. Yeah, Mutation. There was a ton of stupid spam tonight. I'm not sure what that was all about, but Merry Christmas, Jason. Merry Christmas. What did Jay Poopsie say? Here is the last call for questions. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? No, I haven't. I love that guy. Forgive me, I don't know the Emperor. I forget the actor's name. I love the fact that he's going to be in all of these. And that is why I'm going to see episode 9. It's because I have some hope that they will at least get some of the canon right with the Emperor returning to health and coming back for one final battle. Now, Luke was supposed to be the final battle with the Emperor, while Ren and Rey kind of battled each other and then other dark forces. I digress. Is there any hope for Galchenyuk to turn his game around? Sure. There's always hope. He's a talented player, but, Oh, sorry. Hey, Chris. Sorry you missed it. Yeah, happy Festivus. I got a lot of issues with you people. Oh, wait, I can't say you people on a hockey podcast. I love you, Grapes. Okay, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a blast. Like and share and comment. As always, you know the rules. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you didn't like this and you give me a thumbs down, you got to explain why. Them's the rules. Okay, kids. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Festivus. Have fun.